Alright, my name is DZ, and this is a new type of video I'll be doing. So I'm showing, okay, not showing, but just demonstrating why the 442 actually went out of fashion. Hopefully, I'll hold the camera still as I move these. Alright, so what you do sometimes before you even play a match, if provided the formations and formations, players, everything is there. What you do is you assume the most likely position you'd be in. So, right, for example, a 4-4-2 here, then here we have a team that's playing a 4-3-3. So, before the match is even played, you assume where you put in position where you think the opposition and your players would be. So, you get a general understanding of how the game would go. So, 4-4-2, right? So, you assume that this is, how can I say this? This is the winger. He's probably going to be here, trying to. He's probably going to be forward, but let's just put it in terms of that. He's probably going to be here near the touchline. Same thing with here. He's probably going to try and both these players here, the 11, the two wingers, 11 and 7 are probably going to try and cut inside. Then you're going to have your central striker. This is where they're most likely going to be. Same as here, your number 10 and probably the secondary striker. I've just put these here because, just for the sake of putting positions. You assume that your number 11, let's swap it out because you assume the number 7 is going to be a right footer. This is going to be a left footer. If it's a traditional 4-4-2, what they're going to be doing is that they're going to be whipping in crosses, right? And then now you're going to have your three midfielders in the middle of the park trying to control the ball, and then you're going to have your other two midfielders here. And this is where the problems start with the 4-4-2, as we've seen average positions. Yes, we do know that they're attacking fullbacks, but most of the times, depending on the team, some might be higher, some might be, one might be high, the other one might stay to be a bit more defensive, depending on the type of team it is. And again, poses another problem depending on that, because most of the time with the 4-4-2, you usually have the assurance that you're going to have four defenders. And, depending on the type of 4-3-3, the player profile, some other attacking, so you may have a very attacking fullback, you may have a very reserved fullback. In terms of this, I can give an example. Let's say a Balde, he's most likely going to be looking to attack. Then here you might say you have a Wan-Bissaka when he was at Manchester United. I don't want to say he's not an attacking fullback, but he's much more better when he's seated there. Then this is where the problems start. Let's just assume both of them have a defense that prefers to stay back, not really push up when unnecessary. So these are the average positions, and then now you have problems here. If they get the ball, it's very easy. It's a 3v2 in midfield, and it's very easy because you press, they're gonna outpass you, boom, and then just like that, he runs. Oh, sorry, that's way too much. Boom. And if they have if they have very bad manners, they'll actually stretch the pitch. They'll go further away from each other, so that these two, by the time he's running to close him down, he's opened up. And then if he closes the same thing here, he probably boom. Sorry, moves it like that, moves it to him, and just like that, they bypass the two. How can I say this? They bypass the two-man midfield, and as they're running back, this is where things get very dangerous, because at this point in time, as you've seen here, these two midfielders, they'll be behind the ball, so there's not much they can really do about it. And then you have problems, especially if, let's say, for example, even though the number 6 might be more reserved, they might just be here, camped up. Let's just say, for argument's sake, these players are back because, let's say, for example, they're playing a high line, they're trying to press, right? They're trying to put more pressure. So, as you can see, depending on the situation, you might have a situation whereby if your 9 and 10 are willing to come back, or just depending on how you might do it, because even the wingers, you may have situations whereby you're like this, but most likely your midfielders will be further like this, your attack will be somewhere here, maybe the wingers might be somewhere a bit lower, but at the end of the day, the 3 here will be the main problem. And as we come closer, you have a front attacking 5, and guess what, there are only 4 defenders. Yes, one might drop in, but he might also come closer. He might push much more higher, and then they might come like this. But the main problem is that midfield battle, because already here, as you have seen, the assumption is already, as you've seen here, boom, they've already outnumbered. So you have the 10, you have the 9, you have the, sorry, 8. So it just becomes a issue of passing patterns. You just look to where you can do the most damage. So if you have a central striker, you probably just drop in, wait for the ball, and because there's so much congestion, he might drag in a midfield, a defender or two, so that probably he lays it back. And depending on the type of 4-4-2 that's being, sorry, a 4-3-3 that's being played, you might have one whereby you have very attacking strikers, sorry, not strikers, midfielders, whereby they're willing to take shots from outside the box. That's a danger. If this person is a false 9, that's even worse, because he drags people out, and just like that, he drags the number 4 out, he passes it to him, boom, and just like that, he has a shot on goal or ability to try to take a shot or just confuse the keeper. And that's where the problem with this 4-4-2 came in. The midfield was being overrun, and then you had attackers that would always prepare for the counter, not really drop back, and then that would also, so they would probably be here, which lowers the numbers. Attackers, depending on them, they might also want to be a bit more higher, or they would just be here. But the problem is that this place gets over congested. Once again, you have attacking fullbacks, and because this type, and most likely this type of teams, what will happen is that they do not like to, sorry, not that they do not like to, but most likely if they were to lose possession, what they would do, you immediately press. So let's say, for example, you get the ball, but because look at the overloads that are here, there's just too much of a crowd, so most likely he loses possession, or if he passes it to him, or if he plays a risky ball, intercepted. If he tries to kick it out, boom, boom, it probably lands here. And even if, let's say, for example, he misses it and the ball goes, the keeper was usually a sweeper, so by the time you reach there, the keeper has it, they play it back, and then they just keep on recycling, and it's constant attack, attack, and attack because of the midfield battle. Because in football, most of the times, the battle is in the midfield. This is why this formation hasn't really gotten... so this is why it's not really that it's phased out, because I'm pretty sure there are different ways to use this 4-4-2. Most variations include a 4-1-4-1. Another one is 4-2-3-1. And then the other one is probably like a 4-4-2 diamond, where you probably have all midfielders. Oh, I saw Burnley play that type of formation, whereby they're playing a 4-4-2, but the whole four was midfielders. So you're probably going to get better control of the ball and, things like that. Otherwise, just my 2 cents on, not really 2 cents, but just showing why 4-4-2 just became much more unfavorable for teams to use. Yeah, I didn't expect this video to be so long, but I also wanted to use this tactics board because, just imagine I have a tactics board, but I'm not making use of it in terms of making videos and whatnot. So I was like, you know what, let me use a tactics board, because at the end of the day, these things are meant to be used. Oh no, my number 10 is too high up. Yeah, proper 4-3-3, stuff like that. But that's why I might explain this better in a later video. Most teams prefer to have either 3 in midfield or just a 5. So what they'll do is that, let's say, for example, assuming this is a ball player, so boom, boom. I know the numbers don't match, but you get what I'm saying. So other teams prefer to have a 5 in midfield, or what they'll do, they'll have a back 3, and this will be wing backs. So they'll have a back 3 here, and then they'll have wing backs. So it makes it very, very rigid, because people think that if you're playing with wing backs, you're not going to succeed, but it's actually more attacking. Because if you're playing like a 3-5-2, you have the 2 attackers, they'll cause problems. You have, usually in terms of the midfielders, usually have 2 that are very attacking. Good example is Inter Milan. Mkhitaryan, Calhanoglu, Barella, all of them can shoot from outside the box. And then you have the wing backs that provide constant support. And as they move forward, he probably stays behind as a defensive midfielder. And then you're covered because you have 3 defenders. That'll probably be a video for another day. But that's all. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.